And you know, one thing about me, I'm gonna be outside this summer, okay? I don't know about you, but I'm gonna be outside. Welcome, y'all. Welcome into this video. We are gonna be diving into this upcoming Sagittarius full moon happening on June 11th and why it's a pretty lucky transit. I'm putting my phone down. Please don't fall. And why it's pretty notable considering that Sagittarius's ruling planet, which is Jupiter, which is a huge benefic planet. It's considered a pretty lucky, expansive planet. It'll be moving signs from Gemini to Cancer. And you know what that means for you and I? That means that it's going to be moving from one house in our chart to a new house and likely activating, offering expansion for better or for worse in some cases, in a new area of our lives. So it's really interesting to see. And I definitely think that this full moon is really spotlighting this for us. And as with all full moons, they're seen as these sort of culmination points. As they raise the tide, so too can they also raise our emotional and intuitive abilities. You know, the moon is seen to rule over our emotions, our relationships, our intuition. Well, I'm excited to dive in to all of that with you, along with the top transits and all the things. And before we dive in, I'm really excited and proud to mention to you guys that as the spring season comes to a close, which is mind-blowing how fast time goes, that means that the summer transit guides are here. So for anyone who isn't aware, what it is basically a custom PDF for all of the top transits of the summer season. So the end of June through the end of September, all the top transits and what it means for you custom to your sign. And in celebration of the summer season coming up, the last of the 2025 wall calendars and planner inventory are all steeply discounted. So if you've been waiting for that, be sure to get it, bundle it with this digital download. And I'm really excited about it. So yeah. So as many of you know, all full moons occur when there is an opposition aspect formed between the sun and the moon. So what does that mean? That is basically when the sun and moon are on opposite sides of essentially the zodiac wheel. They're on opposite ends of the earth as well. And we see that the sun's light is fully reflected onto the moon's surface. So we see that the sun is in Sagittarius and on the opposite side of the zodiac wheel is Gemini. And that is the information axis, so to speak. So the Sagittarius and Gemini are considered sister signs because they're directly across from one another and they have somewhat opposing energies. And what does that mean for us in terms of the full moon? It means that all full moons essentially bring in themes of striking a balance, embracing the duality between two opposite themes in our lives. It's calling for us to find a balance between more immediate gratification, that being the more Gemini quick info sort of themes, and the more delayed gratification, that being the more deeper research, higher learning themes of Sagittarius. Also think of short-term travel, that being Gemini themes, versus long-term travel. Think quick tricks, fun facts, versus deep research. And so these overarching themes all circle around information, learning, exploration, explaining things, articulating things, the internet, and like I mentioned, travel, whether it's short-term or long-term. And again, full moons are seen as these culmination points. This is one of the reasons why you see a lot of people doing full moon rituals, where they take time to reflect on a lot of these things. They reflect on the duality of things. They reflect on how far they've come, maybe midway through this lunar journey, because the full moon is midway through the lunar journey, or just throughout their life. Maybe we are midway through the year as well. And they reflect on what is and isn't working. They generally get clear on anything that they want to release or anything that they feel like they've matured on, they want to celebrate. And the full moon being this culmination point, it's the spotlight. It can be a great time to celebrate how far we've come in many ways. And if there's anything that comes up that you're ready to release, this can be a beautiful time for doing a full moon ritual where you write those things out and you do some form of a release spell or ritual. And that can look as simple as writing things that you're ready to release on a piece of paper, tearing it up, burning it, safely destroying it. And as you see the light wanes from the surface of the moon all the way down to its lowest energetic and light point at the new moon, so too can the energetic ties between you and the things that you're releasing also wane along with it. And so, yes, okay, I feel like I landed that explanation. So let's move on. Before we move on, I do want to mention that for this video and likely moving forward, I might not be doing the custom horoscopes for all 12 signs. And here's the reason why. Basically, I'm really, really excited about, and I really feel called to Make more TikToks, make more short form content. I love making short form content. I'm like a Gemini stellium, like short, quick, snappy, fun facts. I love that. And I know that you guys love that too. I know that you guys also love very direct to the point readings in a lot of ways. And I know that many of you also like the longer formats, but I'm essentially just experimenting right now. And as a friend, I would appreciate a bit of grace, a bit of, what is the word? Just openness to pivoting a little bit. Oh, flexibility. There we go. As I'm exploring that. And so my plan is essentially to give you the full rundown of what's happening for this lunation, general vibe check, top transits happening, and then journal prompts at the end. And then if you want a custom reading for your sign, you can go over to my TikTok to see that. And hopefully the YouTube algorithm doesn't hear me say that keyword and then tank this video in the algorithm. We'll see what happens. But now that we've talked about the overarching themes of a full moon in the sign of Sagittarius, we can now move on to the top transits happening around the time of this lunation. And the one most notable one in my eyes is that just 2 days before the Sagittarius full moon, Sagittarius's ruling planet of Jupiter will be leaving Gemini and entering Cancer. And this is an ingress or a transit where, the planet changes signs. With Jupiter, it usually changes signs about once a year. So we're ending a year-long cycle of Jupiter being in one house of your chart in the sign of Gemini and moving over to a new house in your chart in the sign of Cancer. Now, with that said, when we see that Jupiter, the planet of luck and expansion, will be transiting the more emotional and protective cardinal water sign of Cancer, represented by the crab, sometimes a lobster, or even the turtle in different parts of the world, which is really interesting that there's this through line with Cancer being represented by aquatic animals that have sort of like exoskeletons. I don't know if that's the proper word, but they have these outer shells, this protective shell. It's really indicating and signaling a year of good, gratifying cries, really more so happy tears for many of us, and a lot of really sentimental moments. And this can really heighten, for many of us, this collective intuition in a lot of ways. And we can more strongly feel a lot of lunations because Cancer is the sign that is ruled by the moon. So we see that Jupiter is now entering essentially the house that the moon rules over. So whatever's going on with the moon, it's likely going to be amplified by Jupiter over the next year. So there's going to be a lot of themes around lunations over the next year as well. An overarching theme for the collective over the next year with Jupiter transiting Cancer is, again, this sense of sentimental nature, this sense of protectiveness of what we care for deeply. Think about the most like cartoonish, ooey gooey, sweetheart, loving, nurturing, sentimental, loving energy that we have. And the importance of boundaries and protecting those things. Those are likely themes that will likely come up for many of us. And again, you want to look at what house that will be transiting. And I'm excited to dive into that on TikTok, custom to your sign in short form. Go ahead and comment if you want me to post them on YouTube Shorts, I think it is, or YouTube Reels. Is it Reels? No, YouTube Shorts, because I can still do that. I might work on doing that as well. And so all of that to say, with this full moon being in Sagittarius, it's almost like this kickoff, this brand new fresh start in a lot of ways for this new transit for Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. So it's a pretty notable deal. Now, with that said, on the same day as this full moon, so on June 11th, we'll see that Mercury in Cancer will be sextiling with Venus in Taurus. Now, this is definitely a more lucky and insightful transit that can bring about easier flowing ideas. And what's so interesting about Jupiter entering Cancer is that coupled really well with it will be that Mercury, which is also in Cancer, will be sextiling with Venus in Taurus. Now, this is pretty notable because Mercury is in the same sign as Jupiter right now. So Jupiter is also lending itself a little loosely, expanding these mercurial themes of conversation. And it's having a very mutually beneficial transit or aspect, which is a sextile with Venus, the planet of love, relationships, also considered a very benefic, a very lucky planet. And Venus is in its home sign of Taurus. So Venus is happy right now. So these are very happy transits happening. And this transit is really indicating that, especially around the time of this lunation, that will likely be an uptick of more talks of love, talks of reminiscing, of a lot of nurturing relationships through conversation. Like just a lot of themes of feeling like, oh man, I am so glad we had this talk. I'm so glad we opened up about this, or I'm so glad that you made me feel safe enough to talk about this, or basically walking away from certain situations feeling like relationships are fortified in a lot of ways, like we're pouring into one another, or you're finally being poured into, or you're finally pouring into somebody else. And there are a lot of easier flowing themes around that, but it definitely is indicating that there's more optimistic, insightful, expansive conversations that likely are tied to our closer, more heart-centered relationships. And those are not all necessarily romantic. That can be platonic. Think of heart-centered relationships that are platonic. I'm thinking of my cat right now. And it's relevant for me. So the final transit that's happening leading around the time of this lunation, actually a few days following it, but it's still relevant because it will be forming. This is a square aspect that will be steadily forming leading up to this lunation, will be when we see Jupiter in Cancer squaring with Saturn in Aries. Now, this is the type of transit that will play a smaller role when it comes to the general vibes, but it is the type of transit that can elicit within many of us some feelings of indecisiveness, some feelings of insecurity around potential judgment. Have you ever just like sat late at night and you think about maybe opportunities that passed you by, or decisions that you'll never fully know if you made the right decision, and you're questioning the path in life or something like that? Or something comes up and it kind of reminds you of like, oh yeah, like I actually had that opportunity and I fumbled it, whatever. This is the type of transit that can spotlight those type of things. And I say that because we're having a square off. We're having this sort of tension between Jupiter, the planet of expansion, and Saturn, the planet of restriction, the planet of reflection, maturity, really rising to the occasion in a lot of ways, but a lot of restriction. And Jupiter is a planet of, it's the opposite of that. It's like, let's just have big hugs. Let's do whatever we want. And so when there's a square off here, they can definitely create a lot of tension. I think that this transit won't be as harsh necessarily, just because Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer, which can result in many people achieving a lot of greatness, achieving a lot of great things through the restriction. So think about the discipline that's necessary to train for a performance or a race or a sporting event, or to train or practice for a speech for your job, or anything like that. And the necessary restriction that is needed in order to discipline yourself and practice and get good at something. So even though there is a square aspect, which is not considered a mutually beneficial aspect whatsoever between two planets, because Jupiter is exalted, it's essentially expressing itself in a lot stronger of a nature. It's really indicating that though there can be potential inner turmoil for some of us, more acutely on the 15th, but especially a few days leading up to it, even around the time of this lunation on the 11th, it is indicating that there can be something fruitful that can come of it. This can be constructive for a lot of us in a lot of ways. So definitely stay open-minded to that. All right, y'all, we're going to go ahead and move on to the journal prompts. I'm going to go ahead and read them here, and then they will be in the comment section and video description if you would like to copy and paste them. The first question is, we are officially halfway through the year. So if you couldn't fail at any one area of life for the rest of 2025, what would that one thing be? And how would you act differently if whenever you tried, a path was revealed? Like each time that you try, a new part of your path is revealed, of like, oh, I go in this direction and there's more opportunity, there's more road. Next question is, when was the last time you learned something new and inspiring? And where did it come from? Third is, what is something that makes you feel even a little optimistic? It could be very optimistic, but what is something that makes you feel even a little bit optimistic? And finally, for this full moon, is there anything you're ready to release? As always, if you have your Auraline Astrology Planner, you can flip over to June's dedicated Strawberry Moon, Sagittarius Full Moon journal area, where you can complete your full moon ritual. It gives you tips for meditating, journal prompts. You can fill in these journal prompts there as well. All right, y'all. With that said, I will answer one of the prompts, but before I do, just a reminder that there are no readings for all signs for this video. I'm really working on managing my time right now. I'm working on developing the 2026 line of planners. I'm expanding things into digital products, and I'm doing a lot of stuff right now. And I also want to expand into TikTok. I really enjoy making short form videos as well as long form. So I'm just trying to strike a balance, and I appreciate your flexibility and openness as friends on here to me evolving as a human being. And I want to make sure that I can still provide useful information for you. So with that said, there will be a QR code on the screen if you want to scan that, and head over to my TikTok page to watch my videos giving you a custom reading for your zodiac sign for the Sagittarius full moon. Oh, I also wanted to say thank you so much for your birthday wishes, y'all. I turned 32 on May 22nd, and I had a 16 times 2 birthday party, y'all, where it was basically like a Sweet 16 theme. And we played strictly early 2000s music because that's when I was 16. And we did a bunch of games. I had like a tournament, and it was really fun. And I just want to say thank you so much for your well wishes. They were received. I had really great juju, good vibes going into my 32nd year. And that's basically it. But with that said, I want to remind you of the summer transit guides. Check them out and see if you like them. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. And I will leave you with my favorite quote. And that is, be gentle with yourself, because life is about the journey, not the destination. All right. Bye, friends. Peace.